Hi everyone, my name is Bola Adebisi. It is my pleasure to be here again today. Today we'll be looking at how to make millions from donor-funded projects for SMEs. We're curious to know how many SMEs are really aware of the amount of money that comes into the country by way of foreign aid in any particular year. I'll also be surprised if many SMEs know that the amount of inflow of foreign aid exceeds what the federal government of Nigeria budgets for goods and services. The impact of foreign aid and foreign funded projects in Nigeria is really very critical to the economy. Presently, the problem in the Northeast, occasioned by the Boko Haram insurgency, has created a humanitarian crisis, which means that it is believed at this time that about 7.1 million Nigerians in the Northeast need foreign assistance for feeding and shelter. Therefore, you find a lot of foreign aid money going to the Northeast. So any smart SME who is very ambitious and wants to make a lot of money will look to how to tap into this business in the northeastern part of Nigeria at this point in time. The question that is going to arise from everything I've said from the beginning is, who are the donors? A very straightforward answer is available. The donors are representatives of developed countries from Europe, from North America, and from part of Asia. From the United States of America, you have USAID, which is the United States Agency for International Development. You also have UK Aid, or DFID, which is Department for International Development, representing the government of the United Kingdom. You have JICA for the Japanese, which is the Japanese International Cooperation Agency. You also have the German Cooperation Agency, which represents the government of Germany. Of course, we will not be able to talk about this without mentioning the United Nations system. The UN agencies are very pivotal for development aid to developing countries like Nigeria. You have the World Bank, you have the International Finance Corporation, which deals mainly with the private sector. You have UNICEF, which is the United Nations Children's Fund. You have several of them like that. But for the purpose of this particular presentation, we will not be talking about UN system because that will be the subject for another presentation in the nearest future. However, in looking at donor funding for Nigeria, we'll also be looking at the private foundations. Those that come readily to mind will include the old ones like the Ford Foundation, owned by the Ford family. We also have the MacArthur Foundation. And of recent, in the past 10 years or thereabout, we have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which has been doing a lot in the area of health care and child education. We also have the Bill Clinton Foundation, and also we have the Gavi, which is the Global Alliance for Vaccine Initiative, which has been coordinating supply of vaccines to developing countries. All these joined together are the donors, or the people we call development partners. I would like to look at another aspect, which is, where do we find donors? A fairly straightforward answer is available. Most of the donors advertise their contracts in daily newspapers. They have RFQ requests, request for quotation, or request for proposals advertised in most dailies. They also have very robust websites, which if you visit them, you see all their adverts for services and for supplies and tenders there. For those who can afford it, there is a tender alert system, which is an international tender alert system, which is www.devbusiness.com. It's a subscription-based tender alert for which subscribers need to pay as much as $590 a year for subscription. I'm not unmindful of the fact that most SMEs will not be able to afford this. If you cannot afford it, don't worry. The newspapers and the website will serve your purpose quite nicely. However, if you can afford to shell out the money, you'll find out that it's money well spent, because you get value for money. Not only do they publish tender alert, they also publish stages of the tender. And they publish results of tender awards so that it enables the SME to know who are the big people who have won tenders to whom they can serve as subcontractors. In talking about this aspect, I would like to mention the fact that how do SMEs come into these things? Because most donors are not likely to give their first contract to SMEs. They probably will pick contractors, big contractors from their own countries who will do the core job. But these people also need subcontractors. And this is where SMEs come in. Sometimes you may find yourself acting as sub-contractor, if you're in logistics, for instance. My company, we have been involved as subcontractors in DFID projects from the time they were doing health commodities projects in the early 2000s to parts, which is parts 1 and 2, which is partnership for transforming health services. We have also been involved recently in MNCH 1 and 2, which is maternal, newborn and child health. All these are projects funded by the government of the UK, and we've served as subcontractors delivering drugs and medicines to different parts of the country. We have also been working with USAID funded projects in the area of health with Family Health International and other NGOs like that. So by and large, the opportunities are many. The next thing we'll be looking at is what really is the size of this opportunity. As I mentioned earlier on, some estimates have put it that the total foreign aid coming to Nigeria, that came to Nigeria in 2017, was to the tune of $2.1 billion. The United States government was, through USAID, was believed to have put in about $431.7 million. UK aid estimated to have put in £327 million. JICA was estimated to have put in 1.5 billion yen. And the German corporation was estimated to have spent 57.6 million euro in 2017 as foreign aid to Nigeria. This essentially is the size of the opportunity. And this is where we expect that smart, hardworking, ambitious SMEs will tap into. No matter the kind of business you do, there's always something you can do for these people. No matter the sector you belong to. So the next thing we'll be looking at what are the documents required. To begin with, documents that pertain to registration of a business or incorporation of a business will be required. Certificate of registration or certificate of incorporation. All documents that will be required by the bank. When you also buy a corporate bank account, will be required. In addition, they will need audited accounts for the past 3 years. They'll be looking at insurance. They are very particular about insurance. And from experience, I know that some insurance underwriters provide an omnibus policy for SMEs, which will cover workplace compensation, will cover group life, group accident, even including motor, including goods in transit. For a modest fee, you can get a good policy that will meet your needs. They also will be asking for PENCOM, that's pension for your employees. And the law in Nigeria says that any company employ more than 5 persons must hold insurance and pension policies for them. They also could be asking about health insurance, group health insurance for your employees. These are some of the documents that you need to really put together to be able to satisfy their tender requirements. However, getting documents is a continuous process. Once you keep obtaining them, you keep renewing them every year. We can then now proceed speedily to what are the critical success factors. What factors are really critical for you to succeed in doing business with the donors? The donors are very peculiar people because they are coming from a developed country. So many things they can take for granted in their economies may not be available in ours. However, I always emphasize to everybody that in winning any contract, a very important point is you must have the right attitude. What is the right attitude? You must have a positive frame of mind. You must know that the business is competitive and you are going to give your best. You would pay particular attention to all the rules. But the next thing that is very important there is documentation. As I mentioned when we were listing the documents, the people who assess the tender bid that you submit may not have met you before. They could have visited your premises, check your factory, but it's the documents that you put together that they will assess. And sometimes you cannot answer a question when they are working. So you want to make sure that your documents are complete, they are neatly and well arranged, all pages are well numbered, so that at least when they look at it, they can form a good opinion of your company or your business. The other important aspect, which is a critical success factor for success, is really communication. Communication is so important, and I'll give an example. If a client should send you an email, and you get the email at about 10 in the morning, and you don't give a response for the next 24, 48 hours, it's not good enough. Even when you don't have anything, you cannot answer the question immediately, you should send a mail and say, mail received with so and so. I will be getting back to you on this matter in the next so hours. And please, when you give that time, you must stick to it, because they normally note that kind of thing. So communication, response, and ideally you should have a very good web presence, a modest website, a good email address, and you must respond to your mail quickly as soon as you receive it. Finally, one thing that's very important to them is regulatory compliance. What do I mean by this? If you have products, if for instance in Nigeria, you market products that are regulated, I'm talking about food and medicines, your registration with NAFDAC, Pharmacists Council, Standard Organization of Nigeria must be up to date. When you need to get some cap, you need to get some cap. That is regulatory compliance. Don't be bothered if they say, we are looking for so quality. If you don't have it, say you don't have it, but you have this. This is what we do about quality in our own business. Invariably, they will accept. These are some of the things that are very, very important. Success factors are for you to be able to win good contracts with the donors. And finally, by way of conclusion, let's look at the points I've mentioned again. The first is to have a right attitude. Perseverance is very, very important. In many instances, you may not win the contract every time, the first time you put in. Sometimes you may be lucky to do so. However, if you don't win at the first opportunity, don't be discouraged. Continue to persevere. The only time you fail is when you start to try. Bearing in mind that your next contract is just the next one you are going to apply for. If you don't give up, you can win sometimes. And your next big contract might just be on the way. Thank you very much. Wish you the very best.